Welcome to the Heartland Journals podcast with your host, Steve Abramowicz, editor-in-chief of heartlandjournal.com. Welcome to a special edition of the Heartland Journal podcast featuring the very best of Steve Abramowicz 2024 Walk and Talks. Part 1.
So, y'all saw it. Shots rang out. They tried to kill a former president. The news proved themselves once again to be not on the side of good, not on the side of light. They came out and immediately said he fell down and pops were heard and this and that. Typical. When we had our local folks wanting to be able to say that, hey, it's all good. But here's what I could do. And if you care what I have to say, you can listen. All I could think of was, what if that bastard was successful and Donald Trump was dead today? What would happen to this great country of ours, the one that I go on air every time and ask for blessing, even though we don't deserve it. We don't deserve Donald Trump, a guy who's a multi-billionaire, has a beautiful wife, a brilliant child, who's got his whole future ahead of him, and yet they're willing to jail him, fine him, try to bankrupt him, now murder him. Whoever they are, it doesn't really matter. The point is if he had died by an inch yesterday, where would America be? Nowhere is where we would be. We would be a completely lost, headless country that doesn't deserve God's blessings. Just like we don't deserve Donald Trump, to be quite honest. So all I gotta say is to anybody on the left or in the media or online who thinks this was staged or this is funny or this is political, you need to seek help. You need to get off of social media. You need to ask Jesus' forgiveness. You need to understand that chaos and communism and socialism are responsible for the murders and deaths and tortures of more people than any virus God has ever sent this way, okay? Spanish American flu, the bubonic plague, COVID, nothing. Communism, socialism, this dream, this nirvana that you all think is such a wonderful thing is a lie. And if you want to live in a lie, fine. Do it by yourself at home in the dark in your mother's basement and leave the rest of us alone. Us who just want to live our lives, be concerned parents and watch our children grow, and maybe we'll be blessed to have grandchildren who can continue this democracy, this republic that is the greatest thing to ever happen on this earth in the history of mankind since Jesus told about 13 people that he was God, okay? So, if you want to go on to campuses like UCLA and make a mess and shout from the heavens and not shower and pee in a cup, don't. Because Antifa and BLM and all of these political organizations that spurned out of Acorn, that came from a communist book, Saul Alinsky's book, dedicated to Lucifer, leave us out of it. Go to Cuba. Go to Venezuela. Go to hell and leave us alone. And I've got to tell you right now, if Donald Trump does not make it to the finish line and change this country back, we will not be blessed. We will no longer be able to say with a straight face, God bless America. And I do not want that. Anyway, thanks for listening. God save Trump. He's going to be with us. They're going to put extra protection on him. We won't have to deal with that again. And if we're lucky, he will clean the stables. He will turn over the tables. and we will get ourselves back to a country worthy of his name by a man who sacrificed now everything for us. We don't deserve it, but thank God he's doing it. Amen. Hey everybody. It's a cloudy, rainy day in Tennessee, but I thought I'd take to my live video and add a little content to the show. This isn't the regular show. This is just me out here thinking about what I want to do with the show. What's the next topic? I don't know, but I'll tell you something. I'm from California, as y'all know. Don't California my Tennessee. I say it all the time. Well, there's a reason, but little did I know that it would follow me not only to Washington State, where they California'd their Washington State big time and became basically a socialist communist state. No rules apply there, no constitutional rights for individuals, no right to bear arms, no right to free speech, nothing. So, now we're gonna California, our United States of America. How do you like that? There's nowhere to hide. I've been to Argentina, I've been to New Zealand, I've been to Ireland, I've been to Israel, I've been to Canada, I've been everywhere. Man, I got my Johnny Cash shirt on and everything. I've been everywhere, man. There's nowhere else. So now, we got an election, in a few months. That's my dog, by the way. I'm gonna dox my dog, Sweet Caroline. Yeah, that's her name. We got an election in less than 3 months. Last night, Ilhan Omar won her re-election with over 50% of the vote. So they say. Sure, it's in the books now. I don't know, do people really want that? That's hardcore Marxist communism. Minnesota, Minneapolis, the vice president candidate is from there. He's got some deep secrets about stolen valor, of course, and then you add, oh, my dog's gonna bark. No. All right, good girl. Got some stolen valor issues, got some hardcore Islamic fascist connections. He's got weird money issues, $250,000 that was supposed to be spent for homeless that he decided to spend on his own self. So we'll be watching that. But the person at the top of the ticket, the one who we're most interested in, Kamala Harris, who somehow got to the top of the Democratic Party ticket without a single vote being cast for her. Not very democratic, right? So, what's her background? Oh boy. Her and her sister, less than 30 miles away from where I grew up, at the same time, was hanging out in what ultimately became the Black Panther Nation, Oakland, California. Yeah, here in Tennessee, we got another one of those. Justin Jones, same place, Oakland, California. I've been talking about Oakland, California, and how messed up that is for so long. Former governor of the state, Jerry Brown, was the mayor of Oakland during some good times, actually. Then goes back to be governor and helped destroy it by China. So now we've got Oakland, California, Black Panthers, China, lots of money there. What else came out of the San Francisco Bay Area? Nancy Pelosi. My whole life, that woman has been in charge of the Congress, and everything that you think is a problem, she's got her fingers on. Daughter of a Baltimore, Maryland politician, corrupt. She made $100 million in day trading in the stock market. Coincidence? I guess so. Big family. Daughter is a filmmaker. Son, activist. Right there with Alex Soros and Bill Gates' son. We're going to be with these people for a long time. But here's the point. It's not Republican versus Democrat. It's not MAGA versus Democrat. It's not progressive, kumbaya, Green New Deal. We are now into something totally different. We are into Muslim Brotherhood, Black Panther, BLM, which came out of that, Bobby Seals. This is hardcore Marxist communist, and we are in for a wild ride because, win or lose, their people are there. This woman, Karine Jean-Pierre, whatever it is, in the press secretary, look into her background. She's not just this silly little short woman who says funny things in the press briefing and gives Peter Doocy a hard time. She is a hardcore Haitian commie. Hardcore. I mean, that's right next to Cuba, babes. That is Castro. That is the murderer Che Rivera, who they all love and wear t-shirts about. We are into something in America we are not ready for. The EU and NATO knows about this. They've gone all for it. They love it. They want to censor Elon and Trump on their spaces thing. A billion people saw it. So, what can I say other than the next 3 months are going to be make or break for this country we love. I hope it goes the right way. I hope you all bring 10 friends to vote. Doesn't mean drive them in your car, but make sure they get out there and actually vote the way you want them to, or else even precious Tennessee, Texas, Florida, we're all going to be under a dark cloud of communism, and it ain't pretty. Millions and millions and millions have died. Actually, more people have died from communism than anything else. COVID, Black Plague, bubonic plague, everything. So, man-made. Praise God.
Ladies and gentlemen, excuse me, mea culpa, the devil made me do it. Birthing people and Leah Thomas, welcome to the Demon Seed Convention 2024. Please allow me to introduce myself before I introduce our speaker tonight. Sorry, not Beyonce, we lied about that, but I hope you are having a great time anyway, making new friends, intercoursing with old friends, and exchanging Grindr profiles. Just a reminder that after we finish for the evening, sometimes after midnight, when the most popular speaker will be bumped to, it's very dangerous in the liberal city streets of Chicago, so download the Uber app, not Lyft or Yellow Cab. Be sure it's Uber because that's Kamala's sister's husband's company, and we want to keep the left-wing tech companies profitable so they don't unionize. And we'll hear later from the president of the NEA why our kids are worth $10,000 per student on the open market. And now, without any further ado, our keynote speaker for the night, Satan. Hi! Hello! Please sit down, sit down. Wow, a standing ovation. You are too kind. After all these centuries in the shadows, it feels so good to be amongst friends here in Chicago. First, I want to apologize for being late. I was caught up helping set up the Hotties for Harris event. They needed helping hands to stock the gumball machines with Plan B, and I was killing it at Abortion Access Skeet Ball. Be sure to stop by. It's over there by the sex-themed walls to your left. That's my right, your leftist direction. Don't forget to grab your autographed copy of 1958's The Naked Communist. I'll sign it for you. I know you can't read since the public schools were successful taking over goal number 17. Whoop, whoop. Thank you, Randy. But use Jeff Bezos' Bub's Kindle or have someone read it to you. There's 2 goals left. Now we've got one party. We and most of the others control of radio and TV and homosexuality. My friend Cleon's book will show you how to make your family look like the Obamas and Waltz's family. So I'm happy to be here. It's always nice to bump into folks I'll be seeing soon enough, but haven't seen in person. There's Oprah. Hi. I feel so sorry for her being a victim with only $2.5 billion and half of Maui in her account. I'm praying before she moves down to my neighborhood, she gets the other half, not touched by fire. Just above that, so the view is unimpeded. There's Governor Walz. Hey, coach. Kind of weird about that horse. Not something I'd have done, but hey, love is love, even if it's weird. And it's working for us, so you do you and Mr. Ed, buddy. Might want to look at that kick. Nancy, hi dear. We'll be seeing you soon. You dropped a baggie up here of my marching powder. That's so nice of you, but you've made enough sacrifices, babe. Don't worry, you're in. There's Bill and Hill. Hi, I'm currently thinking up new commandments for you two to break. Don't worry, you are in the club. All the pizza you can eat. Wink, wink. You may be younger than Trump, but you sound like you're knocking on the door, maybe before Joe even. Oh, and John Legend, thanks for performing last night. We've got lots of people for you to jam with, man. It's gonna hurt though. Mike and Barry have got your room all prepared, right next to Jeff and Jolene. I always get my witches confused. If I could get the nominee just one piece of advice today, and I am the Prince of Lies, so I know what I'm talking about, tone down the overt truth of black liberation theology and all that Oakland Black Panther stuff. Taxing golf balls won't win the useful idiot vote at the country clubs, and the border isn't secure, which they can see with their own eyes. So ixnay on the oothsay. Just don't answer questions and let the demonic media do its job covering for you when they reveal jobs back up to fill in those 300,000 missing kids and 1 million missing jobs. Anyway, good night, good luck. Let's keep the abortion taco trucks rolling and harvest those souls. Maybe codify Roe nationwide once again, and I'll see you soon. Hot stuff. Invest in sunblock and asbestos underwear. See you in hell for eternal joy. Vote Democrat.
Hey y'all, what's up? Good morning, it's Saturday. There's my dog, Sweet Caroline. We're taking a little extra walk today, and I figured, hey, why not talk to you if you're listening? If you're not, I guess you won't hear this. But I was thinking about the DNC, right? Bill Clinton, the great communicator, he had a speech, and he said something, and I thought it was kind of interesting. He said, listen to how many times, that's actually a very bad impersonation, listen to how many times Trump says I in his speech. I. Which is kind of funny because Obama holds the record for the most I's in all time, because basically more times than an ophthalmologist at a peep show. That's all he ever talks about is himself, I. But I started thinking about I. Now, wouldn't that be just a wonderful campaign slogan for the right? I've been saying forever, this is a campaign about the I words: inflation, immigration, indoctrination. Okay, well, immigration could also be invasion for some people. If you live in New York City, or if you live in most blue cities that are sanctuaries, you're being invaded by immigration. So that should be an issue. Remember the old build the wall? Haven't heard about that in a while. Build that wall. But there's a lot of I words that actually should be talked about. How about inalienable rights? That'd be nice. We go back to a time when shall not infringe, there's an I word, aren't infringed, especially when it comes to self-defense, being able to own a gun, being able to, well, vet who comes into your country, so there's immigration again. Illegal, right? So we got to go back to the Supreme Court, which is a disaster and has been completely infringing on rights for a long time, ever since Obamacare basically made you have to own something. So there's injections, right? One side wants mandates, the other side's kind of like, well, I gave you the best thing in the history of humans and saved a bunch of lives, not counting any of the ones that are gone and interned 6 feet under. There's an I word for you. So when you're voting, you have to think about these I words. Inflation. All right, true. When Trump was president, we did not have much inflation to speak of after about 20, 30 years of very low rates, almost Japan level zero rates. But of course, you know, we're about the Heartland here. You know, maybe we should change it to Heartland, but that's a little too close to iHeartRadio. So what I'm thinking is you got Iowa, Illinois, Iowa. All right, there's your Heartland for you right there. Illinois, the party of or the state of Lincoln. Even Reagan came from them. Be sure to see the movie; it's coming out this week. So you've got Heartland issues all over the place, including eminent domain. There's an I for you. Should the state or the city or the county be able to move you off of your land in order to build something like a freeway or any other union job they want, even a Walmart? No, they shouldn't. So we have to work on that. Of course, taxation is outrageous. That doesn't start with I, but you do have to file it. And there is a form, I-40, so 1040. So there is that, and of course that's always on the agenda. So Supreme Court, we got inalienable rights to worry about, which is our founding document says those are inalienable, so those are God-given rights. You shouldn't be messing with that, right? Isaiah 40, do good works. You've got a whole strew of these people, unbelievable, one after the other, up there at the convention talking about in vitro fertilization, IVF, which came out of nowhere, but obviously it's just part of this weird leftist thing to say, well, abortion's down to the states now. We don't have that federal issue anymore, so I guess we're going to have to go with IVF, which came out of Alabama. This weird, some guy went into the freezer and dropped a bunch of sperm and eggs mixture, and apparently that's murder there, and they said, nah, it's not. But they ran with it. Tennessee had made a headline or two by saying, oh, we got women's rights to worry about. Do we want IVF to be a thing? And then nobody ever passed a law or put up any legislation about it, but the National Democrats decided, there it is, there's our fight for women's rights and equality. We are going to run with IVF is a war on women. In the meantime, you've got obviously transgenderism, Title IX on the ballot. Do you want big boys fighting with little girls in collegiate sports between now and the time that it's gonna, decapitate somebody from their spinal cord? Probably the female, I would guess. It's not gonna happen to the male. So the gambling lines don't like it either, right? Because that's a very one-sided bet. You're not gonna make a lot of money betting that Mike Tyson can beat up little Riley Gaines. So there's that. Other I words, Israel, of course. Are you pro-terrorist blowing up people like 9/11, or are you pro the only democracy in the Middle East that actually will listen to us when we're nice to them to defend the principle of justice, or not? Okay, well, we know how they are on college campuses, indoctrination, but we don't know anything about how the right has basically been the most supportive of Israel since, obviously, when Trump was president. That was great. First guy to keep the promise and move the embassy to Jerusalem. But what about the party of the left that wants to defund them, doesn't want to give them any restocking of their missile supplies, even though we've seen that the Iron Dome has been the most successful defensive strategy of all time. So when they say defensive weapons, they actually mean it. They don't mean like, oh, defensive weapons, we have to prevent a bioweapon built in a lab to save everybody from the West Nile virus and monkeypox. I still can't get over that whole situation. It's a sexually communicable disease. You're only going to get it either if you have a vaccine that has it in it, or you do something bad with your intercourse parts. Let's keep intercourse out of this, even though that is an I word. So, long story short, it's pretty obvious. You're either voting for America or you're voting against your own self-interests with the Democratic Party, who somehow pulled off 4 days, 8 hours a day of absolutely nothing to tell you why they should be the party that has already been in power. So incumbency, there's your answer for the day. It's not joy, it is incumbency. Do you want what we had already, or do you want more of the same? Well, I guess that is the same thing, right? They're both incumbents. Trump was president once with a record now, and then you have Kamala, who de facto was in place for impeachment on, and it hasn't worked out so well. So, you can tell I'm winded because I'm going up a hill. Bottom line is, this election in about 70 days is about the I's, always has been: inflation, immigration, indoctrination in our schools, since I didn't harp on that too much, but also in our politics. They tried to indoctrinate the country with their made-for-TV convention last week. Don't think it worked. I'm not sure the honeymoon's going to translate into the real polls. The fake polls are going to say she's going to win 90-0, but I guess the other 10% will just stay home. But talk to you later. Love you. Bye. Hey, everybody. It's Saturday. And I just thought I'd communicate with you, just in case, the world comes to an end, I guess. At least the internet will be forever, they say. Remember, there was a thing called the Cold War, and in the late 40s, they came up with a thing called the Doomsday Clock. Well, if you don't, Google it, because we've never been closer to nuclear Armageddon than we are today. You wouldn't know that, right? You watch CNN, you watch MSNBC, you think, this Ukrainian war, no big deal, that's over there. We'll fight over there. And they don't, actually, no, they'll fight over there. They're not telling you that it's us, our bombs, our guns, our soldiers. they're over there. They're running the show over there, our intelligence community, for whatever reason. They don't let you know that either. I know the reason. You probably know the reason, or at least can assume and be probably odds-on correct if you listen to the show. But what we aren't being told is why? Why is Ukraine even in the news? Why are we willing to risk nuclear war with Russia, who in the 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s were our biggest threat because they had the most nuclear bombs? Well, could it be that Clinton signed the NATO expansion in the 90s and George Bush Jr. pushed it? And now Biden, who Obama famously said never underestimate Joe Biden's ability to fuck something up, could he be fucking this up? Could he have said, okay, let's finally achieve our goal of bringing Ukraine, which is the next door neighbor of Russia, into NATO, even though they've told us don't do it. It's a red line, don't do it, 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 don't. Well, they did, and they are, and they basically said, this is the foreign policy of the Biden administration. We are going to provoke a war in Ukraine. We are going to have two outcomes. Either Russia will escalate it because they're losing on the battlefield, or they'll win on the battlefield, and then we'll have to go to plan B. Well, we're in plan B because I think 1,000 soldiers a day are dying in Ukraine. I mean, they're done. There's no more such thing. What is Ukraine? Ukraine is the breadbasket of the world for them, really, for Russia and for Europe. It's a tug of war between who's going to eat the food that is produced in Ukraine and who's not. Or if there are no food, there is no food. Remember, Stalin starved out the farmers, basically, and they said, well, we don't like communism, we don't like Russia, we'll just look towards Europe for our future so that we can survive and not starve to death, make a living. And now NATO wants to bring them in. And as you all know, if you provoke one NATO member, all the rest of them have to get involved. And so that would be war. And so what America's basically done is said, okay, Ukraine's ours, de facto NATO member, and Russia is our mortal enemy and has been for a long, long time, going back to the neocons and before that the Cold War, and even Ivan Drago against Rocky in Rocky 4, right? I mean, that's been it. Even Rocky or Rambo 2, I think, no, 3 in Afghanistan, that was a proxy war. America against Russia in someone else's land. Well, here we are again. This time, much, much bigger stakes, because all those nuclear bombs that everybody's been afraid of, remember, you have to go under your desk at school, you have to have the bomb shelters, you had to have iodine pills just in case. That's where we're at. The only problem is we've forgotten all about it. They had this nice little documentary called Chernobyl on HBO that was all the rage. Everybody saw it. And oh, happily ever after, we lived. Cuban Missile Crisis. Oh, happily ever after, we lived. There's a movie out with Kevin Costner, Bobby Kennedy. I don't know, I forget. But anyway, the doomsday clock started out as a few minutes to midnight. And every year it's gotten a little closer, a little closer. Obviously, a clock does that. Well, we have never been as close to midnight as today, but you wouldn't know that. So take a look at that, and let's pray that nobody ever pushes the buttons, because yes, ours are big, but theirs are big too. And that would be the end. No more taxes, no more working for a living, no more worrying about how your grandkids or kids are going to pay for college. There's just, how are you going to survive tomorrow, Road Warrior style. See you later. Good morning, friends and HLJ listeners, if you're out there. Hope you are. I just couldn't help but say, now that we're with the DNC and the RNC in the rearview mirror, we have never had a starker contrast between populism, some people call that MAGA, and communism. Some people call that Bidenomics or Kamala Harris for president. You don't know how bad Walz as governor during the Summer of Love, BLM riots, Ilhan Omar land, fascist Islamo-fascists in his state, the fastest growing one. His relationships with China, full-on communism. Google it. 30 times he'd been there. I haven't been there once. Doesn't mean I'm not a communist, but certainly doesn't mean I'm a fan. 2-to-1 she's spending on ads in Pennsylvania. Josh Shapiro there has since 2016, completely undefensible victories for the Democratic Party in Pennsylvania, a must-win state for Trump to be president. Georgia, he's spending money, but not enough, meaning it has to be defended. You wouldn't think so, right? Red state. Those two states, unfortunately, are the answer. They are the difference between America going communist and America having some semblance for 4 years of the liberties that we've come to know and love. I hope I'm making the case that people look into Oakland, California politics. It's just a stone's throw away from San Francisco politics across the Bay Bridge, which was a multi-billion-dollar boondoggle, by the way, to replace that. I actually know the guy who was the engineering company that did it. So I know about the Chinese bolts and all the rest that have to be replaced constantly because they are inferior. Anyway, money changing hands all over the place. So we're going to get a full-on dose of far-left California politics going all the way back to Jonestown. You got to look into that. You got to know about the cult. You have to look at Nancy's reign of, the Sacramento being the capital of California, just teamed up with Google to be the, propaganda arm of the Democratic Party for the West Coast going forward. So that's going to be Kamala's little fiefdom. That's exactly how Nancy and Dianne Feinstein took over California back in the day. Also related to Jim Jones and the Jonestown cult. Look into that. Look at how many people were black and died as true believers. And then you have to know about Huey Newton, and the Black Panthers. That is where Kamala spent her free time during her school years in California before going to Canada. Same with her sister. I'm going to do a thing today on her brother-in-law, the only real African-American person in their family, because as we all know, her father was from Jamaica, her mother was from India, and that's the other point. India is the fastest growing population in America. They always want you to look at Mexico and Venezuela. Small numbers, a lot of criminals, but small numbers compared to India. India has a caste system. People don't understand it. They think it's a democracy like us. It's not. They are very, very, very racist, very, very, very class-oriented, and their Marxism is a version that we have never seen before. Oh, look, it's a butterfly, or a hummingbird. Anyway, there's Caroline. Good morning. So I got to pick this up, but I wanted you all to be aware that we're going to be talking a lot about West Coast communism. Remember West Coast hip-hop and how they fought East Coast? Well, the Kennedy East Coast politics is gone. We are now into a Nancy Pelosi from Baltimore, interesting, democratic Marxism, communism, straight out of China, and we ain't ready for it. We got about 45 days to fend this off, and I really don't think it matters if it's her or Trump in the presidency. We got to work locally on our Congress and our assemblies and our mayors and our governors and our red states being redder, because I think DC is gone. Talk to you soon. Bye. Good morning, heartlandjournal.com listeners and viewers. I hope you're out there. I've been doing these video journals a couple of times now, just out here thinking about the show and future guests and what I want to do. And of course, got to walk the princess right there, sweet Caroline. So hopefully you're all following my Twitter at Mill Creek View. We still call it that, or you can just look for Heartland Journal. But my friend and coworker, associate, I guess we could say, he writes for me, Jonathan Cho, just went to Aurora, Colorado, at Cho Show, C-H-O-E, Show, S-H-O-W, one word. And I think it may be the most important video journal blog he's ever done. Is phenomenal. He basically is covering the Aurora, Colorado invasion by Venezuelan gangs of private property and chasing away renters and extorting landlords, because within days of that reporting, we see it in Dallas, New York, where they actually have National Guards in hotels, public hotels, there for something. We'll see. We'll see what this ultimately becomes. Where they receive weapons in canisters and crates addressed to them. That's weird. So we got a problem. We got like Fall of Rome stuff. If you're familiar with that book, Rise and Fall of the Roman Empire, that's exactly what happened. It wasn't just Caesar being stabbed by a bunch of senators in the proverbial back. It was letting the Visigoths, the barbarians, inside the gate, not at the gate. So we're in the gate phase of this, and it's certainly not American. It's certainly not going to be voted on in November and somehow another change for the better. I think there's like, 4,000 or 8,000 elected officials in the country, and only half, maybe 55% are quote unquote Republicans. That's the answer, folks. That's the answer. You need local sheriffs, mayors, city council members, county council members, dog catchers to be Republican. And so if you're just waiting around for Donald Trump or Kamala Harris to come and save you and bail out your company and bail out your schools and bail out your hospitals, forget it. There's $1 trillion of unspent COVID funds just sitting there waiting to be unleashed on us, which is just going to be inflationary, as you can imagine. So some of you don't know, maybe you do. I posted it on the Twitter. I read the Bible every day, a little bit, once a day. No big deal. Doesn't make me a saint. Just makes me actually surprised that even though I went to Sunday school as a kid and I learned about Noah and the rainbow and the 2 animals of every kind and Adam and Eve and all that wonderful fairy book stuff. I believe it now, but I didn't then. So I was reading Amos. Some people probably never even heard of it. It's Old Testament. You know, there's a difference. Most New Testament believers, Christians, they only know the New Testament. They only know Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. At that, they don't even know the majority of prophets and what they were trying to say. Well, Amos basically is the one who says, if you stray from God's word, you will not be blessed, right? So when we say, God bless America, that used to mean something, right? It's like when you blow your nose and they say, God bless you, or gee damn, right? It's blasphemy, but people are sort of like used to it. It's slang. Well, if we're going to stay blessed, we got to fix this, because what we're seeing is literally biblical when the Huns or the barbarians are unleashed by an unwitting king or prime minister or whatever inside the country, and we get overrun from within because, you know, Jonathan was showing they don't have license plates on their cars. They don't stop for red lights. They don't stop for pedestrians. They don't stop for anything. So we'll be talking a lot more about this. But bottom line is, you got to work locally on this election coming up here soon. The Freedom Caucus is basically our only way to go. And even in Tennessee, they can't create one. There aren't enough conservatives to actually get that done. So stay tuned. We'll keep following it. And let's make sure that America stays blessed. And God bless you. Bye.
Good morning, everybody. Just some quick comments. You on Rumble? Check it out. I'm wearing my suit. Stiff neck collar, driving in my car, not walking the dog today. But I was thinking, man, I was born in California in 1971.
I grew up, I went to high school, graduated in 1989, ended up in Southern California at my favorite college, the one I wanted, applied for 5, got into 4. Luckily, the one I wanted, I got into. And I would have to say I was probably a pretty die-hard, arrogant Californian. You know, I traveled the world, I went to Australia, I went to Europe, and I would basically strut around as a Californian and feel bad for everybody that didn't actually come from California. Kind of a weird thing, because it was the greatest place in the world. You could be skiing all day, come down, be on the beach for sunset in the warm, snow skiing, of course, come down, be on the beach at a bonfire. You had everything. You could skydive, you could snorkel, you could literally live the perfect life in California for my whole life. And I remember very clearly when I was leaving for Washington State, feeling very bad about that. I mean, I literally wanted to live and die in the state of my ancestors, where my mom and dad raised me, because of the 50 states, California was the best. Of the 175 countries, California was the best. Economically, educationally, you name it. Very proud. I went to University of Southern California. That was awesome. It had to have the name California in there, right? So here I am now, looking back at what they did to it. I have to go to Washington State next week, and I am dreading it because, as happy as I am for the family that's getting married, I am very, very sad at what the human beings did to that country and their legislatures by passing some of the sickest laws you can imagine that make your children unsafe. I left Washington State because our girls and our women were unsafe. And Gavin Newsom should be thanking all of us who created that state, paid our taxes, did not get hooked on fentanyl and poop on the sidewalks, and even as little as pick up after our dogs. I pick up after my dog all the time. It makes me mad when I see somebody who doesn't do that, but yet they're rewarding the exact same people who don't do that, didn't even come to the country illegally, don't have jobs, don't become productive members of society. They get hooked on a drug or sin, and there you go. They've done it. You probably come from a state that did the same thing. If you're in Tennessee like me, I meet people every day, 5 times a day, who left Chicago, left New York, left wherever they were living, Miami even, who just say, my state got run into the ground by a evil legislator like a Gavin Newsom or a Jayapal or a Inslee as governor or a Bob Ferguson as attorney general. And the crazy thing is, we got an election coming up where some of the exact same people who caused these problems totally mishandled COVID, totally mishandled tax policy, totally mishandled environmentalism, totally mishandled sea turtles, you know, if you remember the World Trade Organization riots, totally mishandled Chop Chaz during the Summer of Love, and yet they're being rewarded with re-election. And now we might end up having a president of the United States being rewarded for the Russia hoax, for the taxation, for the inflation, for the illegal immigration, invasion, you name it. It's really kind of shocking that America has evolved into this. I mean, I get it. The kids got bad education, 2 generations worth. Not all of them can read, but they all have to have a visceral understanding that if I can't get a job, if I can't grow up in an America that's based on liberty like my grandfather and my great-grandfather and my father, then I need to make a change. There needs to be a change. And so if we're lucky enough to get that change in 30 days, which is really just a change back, something to conserve, like a constitution, a bill of rights, a fair tax policy, we could actually fix this really easy. So we'll be paying attention to it. Thanks for listening. We got a great show tomorrow, actually today, actually 3 this week. So tune in, pay attention, and we might learn something. And God bless America. I'll see you later. And I won't be wearing a suit. Bye-bye.
Hello, everybody.
Sweet Caroline wanted me to tell you a little something today, so I figured I'd log in and tell you something today. Before I do, I want to remind you we had a really good show last night with Art Gillum, who's for the last 45 years owned a Memphis radio station, and all about him. It was a really good show. You should check that out. But it's kind of funny because being from the city with the highest crime rate of the 50 states, he is pro gun control. Makes sense, you know. Guns do kill people. People kill people. Bullets kill people. I get all that. But First Amendment, Second Amendment, that kind of stuff didn't apply. So I know cities are different. But anyway, that's not what I want to tell you about. You can listen to that show and decide for yourself. But here's the good news. Your favorite pop singer, country pop singer, Taylor Swift, is going to give you $1 billion. $1 billion. Can you believe it? She, following the debate, this disaster of a debate that didn't move the needle 1 inch. If you were voting for Trump before, you're voting for him after. If you're voting for Kamala before, you're voting for him after. Just like Art, nothing changed. No sound bites came out of it. Interesting. Like, well, there you go again. Or if you like or 1987 is calling and they want their Cold War back, or any of that kind of wonderful zingers. So nothing changed. But Taylor Swift said she is endorsing Kamala Harris. Okay, you're from Pennsylvania, that's fine. You have a country music background in Nashville, that's fine. I guess you kind of a crossover young lady who obviously is huge with the growing demographic of young female liberals. But you basically just said, I endorse Kamala Harris and her asset tax, her 25% on all your assets. Add up what you're worth and send it in. So she's worth about $4 billion. That's $1 billion that she's going to get, which, if my math is correct, if you take $150,000 on every free house that they're going to give away in California, that's 6,666.6 houses she just bought for mostly illegal aliens, unfortunately, which doesn't do any good. And I'm sure her friends, her buddies, her celebrity influencers like Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie and Charlie Sheen and John Cusack and all these other really rich Rob Reiner types, Barbara Streisand types are going to be so happy to send in 25% of their net worth just so illegals and criminals and people who want to change their gender can get all these free goodies that the government is going to spread around with our taxpayer money. Their taxpayer money, because I don't have $1 billion, so I don't have to send in $250 million. Not a problem. And I also don't get royalties like she does. Well, I kind of do, but not that much. Bottom line is, congratulations, America. You're going to get $1 billion from Taylor Swift. All those royalties are coming back into the coffers to spread out to buy homes and healthcare and transgender surgeries for prisoners who want to be girls in men's prisons and every other boondoggle you can imagine, like Ukraine and Patriot missiles for Israel. There you go. Have a nice day. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to say, first off, I have the best audience in the podcasting universe. We may be small, we may be growing slowly, but you guys are the best. I love you and thank you for listening. Here we are again. I started these little walk and talk podcasts, or not really podcasts, but editorial comment on a video while out and about in the beautiful Tennessee sunshine after the last assassination attempt. And at the time I said there'll be another one. There might even be another one after that. I'll get to that in a second, but here we are, the second attempt. Luckily foiled, but there are two absolutes on my show, in my DNA and the core of why I even do this. Two absolutes. Number one, I hate political violence. And believe me, I have reason to. It's not just because I'm curiously interested uniquely like nobody else in this, it's because I survived the riots of 93. It's because 92, sorry. And because I survived Chop Chaz in Seattle with the rise of Antifa in Portland, burning down a federal building. And now we have the MAGA movement, I guess, and political violence of the left, BLM, Antifa, Acorn, pro-Ukraine, pro-Hamas, pro-Gaza, pro-everything that you can't say is America first, okay? Let's put it that way. The second thing I hate is media bias, untruths, and a lying press. That's why I created heartlandjournal.com, right? Because I wanted truth in journalism, truth in news. Well, here we have both in one. The rhetoric on the left in the news on MSNBC, NBC, ABC, CBS, New York Times, LA Times, San Francisco Chronicle, everywhere except heartlandjournal.com, thankfully, is full of shit and full of violent rhetoric. So there you got both. They are inciting the lunatics. They are inciting the diehards, the true believers, the ones who are willing to take a bullet to stop little future Hitler, which Trump ain't, but they don't know that. They think they're righteous. They think this is the right thing to do. Well, I got to tell you something right now, folks. I've been saying for at least 10 years, the Democratic Party was on the verge of becoming an outlaw, illegal party. We may be there now. And look at all of these rhinos, all of these lifetime Republicans, Dick Cheney, Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, what's his name, Bolton with the white mustache, the whole litany of what were neocons endorsing Kamala Harris, a Marxist, radical, leftist, the most leftist senator we ever had, for president. This guy was Darth Vader like 2 minutes ago. He was the most hated war criminal since Kissinger for the left. And now he's embraced as one of our own. And therefore, in the debate, Kamala says proudly, I'm endorsed by Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney? That is the dude right there who split the party from the Ford and the Reagan camps. We love Reagan, right? There's a movie out right now, making a lot of money, $23 million at the box office, about how great Reagan was and peacefully won the Cold War. Versus everything from the Iraq War to the Afghanistan War to Ukraine to Israel, you name it, Dick Cheney's had his fingers on it, and it's not pretty. And so that isn't a Republican anymore. That is a uniparty, the bad guys, right? America, truth, justice, the American way, Superman. But we're the bad guys, and he's one of them, and he likes Kamala Harris. So if that means you think, oh, well, I'm going to vote for Kamala because Dick Cheney did, you may as well just vote for Barack Obama. Anyway, I hate those two things, and I hope you keep listening. Thank you. Bye-bye. Hello, everybody. Boys and girls, cowboys and cowgirls. Here I am reporting live from Seattle, Washington, where once again they have themselves an election, like we all do, to determine whether or not they're going to do the same stupid stuff that they've been doing for the last 25 years or maybe change their minds. It was 2 years ago this November that I flew back to Seattle just to go to the election eve, not parties, post-mortems, since every single Republican candidate lost. The entire reason I started what was called the Snohomish View and ultimately the Mill Creek View, because yes, they did pay their bills when it came time to advertise and help keep that paper going, but it was the only paper that would actually do the work and let them have their voices, because the Seattle Times, the Everett Herald, and the Linwood Times would not allow advertisements for Republicans, because apparently Republicans are the worst people on earth and they just wouldn't allow it. So here we are back again, and last night was the debate between Bob Ferguson, probably the worst attorney general in America, versus Reichert, Dave Reichert, who was the guy who actually solved the Green River killer case, if you ever remember reading about that or listened to the Green River music, because that was a band, kind of funny. Anywho, so he doesn't tell the truth. It's very similar to what's happening at the national level, where you've got a candidate who has absolutely nothing to run on, but says she is everything and then that bag of chips. And then, of course, you have Donald Trump, who has a track record of actually proving to do things. So Dave Reichert is very, very liberal, very, very, let's just say moderate when it comes to politics. But this is Seattle. You will never win with a MAGA, far-right, conservative Republican for at least the next 20 years. So he's the best shot they got. However, the money that is flowing in, it's a one-sided deal. So we were here checking out Seattle to make sure, has anything changed? No, you drive up I-5 and it's 2.5 to 5 miles worth of nonstop graffiti, which is not illegal anymore. You've got commerce not happening because people are laying down on the sidewalks and going to sleep after a drug-induced, non-police enforced binger. And of course, why would you want to keep your restaurant or retail outlet open? So you close. So there's a lot of boarded up places here. It is not looking as though it's going to fall off the edge of a cliff at the moment. So there's still, the aesthetics that it's a functioning city, but it ain't. After 55 years of Democrat rule, I'm not kidding about that number, they're closing 21 middle and public schools. Well, where did all that money go, right? It went to administrators who had jobs that will all consolidate into one big school, and you get absolutely nothing for it in terms of education, because this is ground zero where everything that you've ever heard about in the public schools being a disaster has taken place. Because you've got your CRT, you've got your Marxism induced from above at the presidents of the public schools, you've got your age-inappropriate pornography in the middle schools and younger, actually, because they refuse to accept the fact that there is such thing as R, PG, and G-rated material for age-appropriate audiences. So they push this into the public schools, and now they're closing 21 of them after $40 million decided not to show up because parents have said, no, thank you, we're pulling them out of here. So bottom line is, why do I say don't California your Tennessee? Why do I say don't Washington your Tennessee? Now say, why do you not California your USA? Because these are the exact people and their policies and their politics that have driven it over the edge. Really, we're talking Thelma and Louise over the cliff without even tapping the brakes. So anyway, I flew here just to see, is it still going on? Is it still a problem? Is it still as bad as it always has been? And the answer is resoundingly, yeah. Vote accordingly. 28 days, tell 10 friends, don't vote for the same insanity over and over again, because that is the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. In Seattle, Washington, King County, Washington, the state of Washington, if Bob Ferguson becomes governor, you're making it worse, not better. Hey, I love y'all. Bye-bye. Hello again, everybody. I am taking a little tour of the old stomping grounds here around the University of Washington. They call it the U District. And can't help but notice a lot of retail closed. A lot of chain link fences, a lot of graffiti, because I think I've told you in the past that they basically stopped arresting and prosecuting people for that. There's the old bike store. So a university bike store is closed. There's the AMC movie theater, used to be a Sundance, so I guess that's okay. There's the Apple Parts store, gone. Looks like it's a Halloween store. I went by the beloved Kid Valley hamburger joint that's been there forever. I think it was bought by Ivar's a couple years ago. It's gone. I'm approaching I-5, and there is, of course, a couple of tents with some people milling about in there. They live there next to a lot of graffiti into some kind of power thing. Who knows? And just continuing along here over I-5, which is back-to-back traffic. So I've seen millions and millions of dollars of projects, high-rise buildings, apartments, where the U Village is, where most of the retail that feeds into the school is. But I went past the famous Neptune Theater. It used to be a movie theater, became a music venue that I saw a lot of music when I was here pre-COVID. then they shut it down and then made you come back with a COVID pass or COVID whatever. But there's a donut shop right there, closed, graffitied all up. I'd show you, but I might crash the car. There's Dick's. Okay, Dick's Hamburger. That's a classic. It's still there. Cheap hamburgers. I wouldn't eat there, but they're there. Not out of business yet. But like I keep trying to say, there's an election in less than 30 days, and Washington State does have an opportunity to change things. They don't have a perfect Republican governor candidate in Dave Reichert, but he's not the Democratic candidate, Bob Ferguson. So just that alone would be disqualifying to be Bob Ferguson. So I hope the state figures that out. But more importantly, the Attorney General. This will be very important for Donald Trump if he survives and wins the election and gets into office. His Attorney General will be the most important pick because he or she are the ones who are going to be able to clean house. And there are some really good ones in the states that he could lean on. Paxton in Texas. Oh, look, a Taco Time is closed with a ton of graffiti. I don't know if you can see that, but that's unbelievable. Taco Time is like the place for kids to eat because it's cheap and it was good quality, and it's gone. But here I am in what's called Wallingford. Chain link fences everywhere, graffiti everywhere. Some of the most important retail places. Yesterday we walked by this wonderful Irish pub, English pub that's been closed down, right next to a burger joint that's been closed down. But yet here is a huge, probably $100 million worth of housing going in to people who have to live next door to a homeless spot. So anyway, back to what I was trying to say. Pete Serrano is from Pasco, the east side of Washington, as far away from Seattle as you can get. He's running for Attorney General, and if he was lucky enough to win, he was actually over there in Spokane covering the homeless crisis with Jonathan Cho this weekend. That's why I couldn't see Jonathan while I was here in person, but I could always see him online because he's out there covering the dirty stuff every day. So he has a chance to get in and clean house and do some things and actually prosecute some lawbreakers and maybe deter future crime. That would be great. Every state needs that. The news is all filled of illegal aliens breaking the law and not being arrested or prosecuted or put in jail. They're just out on the streets doing all they can do, I guess, to make a living, even if it's a criminal living. So, thanks for listening. I enjoyed this trip only to remind myself that I did the right thing and get the hell out of here and move to Tennessee, where America is still the land of the free and clean. Man, did I mention that? It is filthy here. So filthy. I've had nothing but allergies from dust since we landed. And it was clean, nice weather. So you get the nice weather, but you get the awful infrastructure, and roads are potholed and graffiti, like I said, everywhere, and just pipes and just not a clean place. And like that Kid Valley thing really threw me, because that is a very popular restaurant, and it's just out of business. So and they don't even mow the lawns at the sporting fields. I'm passing one where my kids used to play soccer and baseball, and there's dandelions all over the place. It's just, and that's by the zoo. Oh, God bless y'all. See you soon. Bye. Good morning, friends and family. How's it going? It's rainy here in Tennessee. I guess this is Helene and the long tail of a hurricane. So I'm going to do this anyway and probably get my phone wet. Hopefully not destroy it, but I had some earth-shattering news. Did you hear it? Did they tell you on CNN? Did they tell it to you on MSNBC or ABC? Or are you going to read about it in the Post or the Wall Street Journal? No, you're not. But all of my conspiracy theories are now officially facts. There are none left. I'm going to have to find some new ones. I think I kind of have some in weather modification, but we'll see how that all plays out, because this one played out and it took 65 years for it to finally be told the truth. And guess who did it? A liberal judge appointed by Obama in the liberal state of California finally came out and said, hey, you know what? Putting poison in everybody's water supply for 3 generations maybe not such a good idea, maybe harmful to the effects. Oh yeah, and it knocks 4 to 5 points off of the IQs of everybody born in this, well, state, but the whole country, going back to the 40s. Who thought that was a good idea? Some conspiracy nut, I guess. So what am I talking about? Fluoride. Fluoride in the water. Turns out, if you even cook it and boil it, it's worse than drinking it out of your water or in your mother's womb or after exercising. No wonder Coca-Cola and Gatorade put so much sugar in their water to get you addicted so that you'll drink that crap. So, the source of all life, water. You can't have life without water. That's why every city from Babylon on to Egypt put their civilizations right next to a water source so people could actually live and eat and cook and raise cattle and raise, I guess cattle's a bad example for India, but you get the point, right? Vegetables, you name it, you need water. I'm surrounded by rain right now. Feels like Seattle. I just was in Seattle last weekend. It was nice, actually, sunny. But back to the point. Fluoride in the water. Someone thought that was a good idea so that teeth would be white. But what was the consequences? Poisoning us, reducing our brain's function, IQ points. I know people from California like me who were born in 71 and 70s. They probably couldn't use those 4 points because they didn't even register what they did have. So, and then they smoked and drank themselves the rest of the way. But every day brushing their teeth with fluoride, probably had bleeding gums. There goes your cancer-inducing item right into your system. Hey, perfect. So, couldn't you just go to a dentist, or couldn't you just choose dental fluoride toothpaste by yourself? You had to drink it. It's a totally stupid idea, but it was a conspiracy. You're not allowed to say that for a long time. Everyone said, no, that's crazy. Our government would never do that. Well, guess what? This judge in California just deemed it a fact, and the EPA now has to act. Now, will they? Big question. Don't know. But the documentation is all there. If you're still drinking fluoridated water or brushing your teeth with fluoridated toothpaste, I just bought this stuff called Hello, which uses charcoal, which I don't know if that's carcinogenic or not, but I know it's not fluoride, and that's a good thing. So we'll see. But again, I'm one of those blessed people that never had a cavity, but I can tell you, fluoride has now been officially proven to not be a conspiracy, but to be a poison. And every reservoir, I used to live next to a reservoir, it's a fun place to play, in Napa, California, and they, sure enough, would have followed those rules and dumped fluoride poison right in there for us to drink, bathe in, raise our crops in, nurse our babies with, you name it. So anyway, I'll be looking for more conspiracies to talk about with you and hopefully debunk and be proven right, and hopefully not, 80 years later. God bless you, thank you, and I'll see you later. Good shows this week, by the way. I hope you tuned in. I mean, these ones about hashtag trafficked and hashtag invaded, about the documentaries that came out with Ryan Mata and JJ Carroll. Oh my goodness, please watch those shows. Leave comments. Subscribe. Peace out. All right, folks. This is a little bit of a different take on this one. I know I've been called a conspiracy theorist before, and it's all crazy until it's not. And then you say, oh, I guess I heard that somewhere before. I don't know. It doesn't do me any good. It's not like I can profit off of it, or all of a sudden I'm going to be the next Tucker Carlson because I got it right. But I'm willing to say it, even though I have a big question mark. And as you all know who watch my show, I ask questions, and they give me the answers. Hopefully they're truthful. Lovers of truth. That's what we try to say. And if it's truthful, great. You learn something. If it's a lie, maybe you do a little more homework and say, hey, that guy was lying, or that gal was lying. But in the meantime, we got a human tragedy unfolding just a little east of here, eastern Tennessee, western North Carolina. 2 very red voting districts. Remember, East Tennessee voted for Barry Goldwater, so that's about as conservative as you're going to get. North Carolina, red state for the most part, although it's been changing quite a bit. But if you notice, Asheville in North Carolina is a super duper liberal city amongst the Appalachians, and you've got a mayor, and you've got a city manager, and you've got a city council that have been very woke for a very long time. But just about 2 months before this storm came through, and remember, this is at 2,000 feet elevation, not unheard of to get flooding after a hurricane that hits the Gulf and travels all the way up there, but very strange location, because it's also the location of the world's largest lithium mine that they've been exploring for the last decade or so. And about less than 6 months after they sign a multi-million dollar, I think $90 million deal with the Department of America called DARPA. Okay, so that's fine. We need that stuff, I guess, for EV cars, batteries, whatever lithium goes into, quartz, which would be your cell phone and your watches and your car displays, and a lot of stuff, billions and billions of dollars worth of consumer goods that are going to be needed for this. All right, well, what if, like I said, I don't know, I've been documenting it for a long time. Started at Idaho with Idaho Power, where right on their website you can see what cloud seeding is, where they electrify the air by putting things into storms and they make it directional. What if, not unlike Florida during Andrew Jackson's time, where they pushed the Indians off the reservations and moved them to the oh, we got a little dog conflict happening here. Moved them off of their land from Florida and pushed them into reservations. Okay, I get that. I remember that. Or as Calvin Coolidge, my favorite president, said, keep it cool, Calvin. He said, the business of America is business. Well, if that's really true, and all things are commerce and nothing else really matters, why wouldn't they move people off of their land by destroying it with a flood, making it uninhabitable, and moving the indigenous people off the land, and then therefore exploiting it for its natural resources? Well, that's what happened when Argentina was competing with America for being the largest produce economy for the world, and we destroyed them. And for the next 1,000 years or 100 years, we were the dominant exporter of agricultural goods, and Argentina became a basket case, right? So that happens, survival of the fittest, capitalism, I get it. But sometimes they do some pretty rough stuff, like the conquistadors who came, or the settlers who gave smallpox blankets to the Indians. I mean, not unheard of, right? I'm just trying to say it's not unheard of. We've seen this before. Now, was World War II one big, to make the Marshall Plan so that we could rebuild it and basically own Europe and have our Eastern Front safe from any hostile forces for the rest of our lives? That's a big picture for sure. We certainly needed to save people and fight the good fight, and I'm not going to say anything bad about the Allied forces who saved the world from tyranny and communism, but communism didn't die. It's back, right, in a big way. We're about to see a big dose of it if 30 days from today the election goes one certain way versus the other. Actually, I should take that back. It doesn't really matter which way it goes. The deep state is already entrenched in that and has been for a long time. The State Department is literally the far left communist part of America. All right, we got another dog conflict here. No, leave it. Yeah, don't get near her. Don't get near sweet Caroline. She's only sweet when she wants to be. Aren't you, baby? Yeah. Okay, so my guard dog, my guide dog, my guard dog, my co-pilot. Okay, long story short, I don't know. Keep your eye on North Carolina. It's great that Robbie Starbuck and these NASCAR folks and Morgan Wallen, Donald Trump are chipping in and saving the people, giving them Starlink so they can at least communicate with the outside world. Can't really eat it or drink it, but that'll come too. But there is a company, publicly traded, that owns those mines. And I have a strange feeling that they are going to start blasting at the rooftops of those mountains and get into that court, whether the people live there or not, and you need workers for that. And interestingly enough, we got about 20 million who are going to be looking for jobs pretty soon, in jobs like that your average restaurant worker is not going to want to do. So keep an eye on West North Carolina. They have a lieutenant governor who tried to knock out of the politics recently, who's running for governor. So that election is going to be very interesting to watch. He's a black man, and they don't like that on the left if a black man runs as a Republican and has power over a Republican state, who's very angry now about the response from Hurricane Helene. So call me a conspiracy theorist if you want, but I've seen it before, and it wouldn't surprise me if it happened again. See you later. See you on the show tonight. We got Gigi Butler tonight and a guy from the Daily Signal tomorrow. Talk to you soon. Bye. Morning, everybody. It is October 10th, and we are remembering that a year ago, yesterday, demon savages raided a sovereign country of Israel and killed 1,200 festival goers who were out enjoying a sunny time in the Negev Desert and music festival, and never came home. Those are just people. Doesn't matter if they're Jewish, secular, Muslim, Christian. They were slaughtered, and that was a very bad day. And I feel bad for them and for the world that the side of goodness and light was sneak attacked and savagely murdered in their homes, in their streets, innocents, elderly, babies, for nothing, because the result has been the most evil curses you could imagine, right? I mean, we've seen Gaza leveled, every building that was standing is gone, creating famine and illness and pain and suffering. We've seen missiles launched from Iran for the first time ever. We've seen France asking for a boycott of military aid to an ally, former ally, Israel, siding with the wrong side. So I've said for a long time, if America and the world, the civilized world, the Western civilization, continued along this path of greed and sloth and the other 7 deadly sins, basically, we weren't going to be able to say God bless America anymore. God would not bless America and liberty and justice for all, which is what we stand for, because we wouldn't deserve it, right? I've read statistics where less than 40% of Americans currently believe in a higher power, believe in God. They believe in TV, they believe in Netflix and Joy Reid and MSNBC, and, well, why would he? Why would he, right? And so we've seen assassination attempts on presidents. We've seen North Carolina and eastern Tennessee become flood victims of maybe a failed dam and once-in-a-lifetime floods 2,000 feet above sea level. We're now about to see Hurricane Milton, which is interesting because Milton wrote Paradise Lost. But if it has a direct hit on Tampa Bay, it is not blessing the citizens of that state, city, right? It's not. And I'm not saying that they were sinners and that they all were Sodom and Gomorrah and therefore God's unleashing his wrath on them for past sins. But I am saying that the good times that we've been enjoying for my lifetime since 1971 are not blessed. They're not being blessed. Kamala Harris went on 60 Minutes, and she's going to be going on some other things, but she also went on a low-grade soft porn podcast. I got nothing against podcasts. I got nothing against low-grade podcasts. But I do believe that she debased her candidacy herself, although we know her background, so it wasn't a far fall from where she's come from. But the point being is that her constituency that she's trying to cobble together is not like Obama's, who was looking for people who were suffering and for downtrodden and for low income and wanted a better life and could at least campaign on something called hope. She's campaigning on something called joy, which is a very narcissistic thing, right? We're not born to this world for joy. We're born to this world for good works and the glory of God, right? That's the whole point of how we get blessed. And so if your number one issue is joy, and you take joy from the killing of innocent children in the womb with abortion, or if you really want illegal criminals to come from Venezuela prisons into Springfield, Ohio, so that they can rape, rob, and plunder, not exactly joyous for the victims, maybe joyful for the criminal, because they don't have the same punishments as they may have had back home, which could even be death. Okay, so what am I saying? Ultimately, I'm saying we got a 200 potentially mile-an-hour hurricane called Milton, again, as in Paradise Lost, barreling down on an American city, and we already have seen that FEMA won't protect the people of North Carolina or Eastern Tennessee and Georgia, because they said at first there was no money, but actually there is. Mysteriously found $9 billion worth of money that could be spent, not to mention the $40 billion of money that she never spent to connect broadband in rural areas. So that's just sitting there. And then of course there's like 20 billion or more of unspent COVID funds, even though they just spent like 9 of it the other day and could find 150 million for Lebanon, which is Hezbollah, which is attacking Israel, which is a blessed city on this planet, because that's where Jesus is coming back to when he comes back, okay? So I think I made the point that we're doing things that are not giving us the blessings that we so desperately need if we want peace on earth, goodwill towards men, okay? That's what the Messiah is for. That's why he died, was to forgive us our sins, but sin no more. How about sin a whole bunch? Okay, so I'm not talking to you who listen to the show. I'm not even talking to myself, because I try not to sin. I probably am. We are all sinners. But there's a collective here of humanity on this planet. And what we're seeing is either man-made or God-made natural disasters, which are going to lead to hell on earth, okay? You see, you get the point? Hell on earth. So all I want to do is a quick prayer. I've never done this before. My prayer is, hopefully, I don't know, spread it around to 1 million people and maybe it'll get to God, but I'm just going to try this and say, dear God, please have mercy on the people that live in Florida, North Carolina, Tennessee, and the rest of the earth for their sins. They know not what they do. It's a policy coming from up high that is beyond our control. We are nothing but dust, and we have you to thank for everything that we get. And if you see fit, please reduce the speed of this hurricane to something more along the lines of, sub 200, which has apparently never happened before, so that the people will have a chance to survive, and the infrastructure and the budgets of these communities that need to provide safety and protection for their people. So I feel insignificant and like this is totally unimportant, but I just happen to have a channel to be able to pray and say, please God, have mercy. Amen. All right. So, pretty stunning, you all. Pretty stunning, I must say. I don't even know what to say, really, I'm thinking a lot, and I don't want to come across as some kind of crazy prophet or whatever, but I must say that my last video blog, I had done something I'd never done before, and I prayed hard that this hurricane that was at a 6 at the time, or 5 at the time, with 220 mile an hour winds out there in the Gulf of Mexico, was about to devastate Tampa. And the mayor of Tampa said, if you don't leave, you're going to die. And it looked about as bleak as you're going to get. I put up pictures from the satellite that literally looked like a demonic head, like Eddie from Iron Maiden, flying over Cancun and on its way to Florida, the west coast of Florida. But we prayed, right? I did, hard. And prayer works, people. I mean, that's all. It dropped down to a category 3, and there's devastating flooding, and of course the winds are terrible and debris flying around and damage, but I haven't heard of anybody dead yet, and I haven't heard of 9 to 20 foot waves crashing down and wiping out the entire city of Tampa Bay and all of its residents. I mean, right? I mean, come on, guys. Something's weird when you pray for a miracle and a miracle happens. You gotta say, prayer works. So, okay, it isn't me. I mean, there were billions of people praying, I'm sure, all over the world, and it worked because something higher power than whether it was man-made or manipulated or natural, Mother Nature can be controlled by God, right? Right? So, okay, all right, what do we do with that now? Well, here's the bad news. Aside from flooding and billions of dollars of damage and 2 million people out of power, 3 million maybe, out of power, which will be restored. So we lose some creature comforts, but we don't lose our lives, our souls. So I read a report that said 105 million Christians, born again Christians, and Christians are not planning to vote in 25 days. That's crazy, man. I mean, I spent a decade in Seattle trying to move the needle and get Christians of all denominations to vote, because they could have easily turned the tide on all of the crazy communism and Marxism and onerous regulations and anti-business climate and even vaccine mandates to schools, to school boards. They could have turned it easily just with their numbers. But they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do it. I don't even understand to this day. I talk to my pastor all the time. Why is this? And I understand, there's that one line that's, give unto Caesar what is Caesar's and give unto God what is God's. But this is God's, right? I mean, you've got to vote. You've got to change the tide. We've got to get the evil, communist, hedonistic, anti-human communists out of the American political arena. And the only way that that's going to happen is if those 105 or even just 52.5 million of them vote the way that their conscience tells them. So here we are coming up on an election. Please vote. Let's pray again, and let's turn the tide on this America that we love and make it blessed again. Okay? God bless you. Thanks for listening. And God bless the people of North Carolina, Tennessee, Florida, Georgia, all the ones suffering from these natural disasters. And let's pray for peace while we're at it. All right. Love you. Bye. Good morning. I'm back. It's me. Look at that blue sky. That is just exactly as God intended. See that airplane? Nothing coming off the back of that at the moment because it's illegal in Tennessee. I don't know. What can I say? Kind of in the vein of what I want to talk about. what do I want to talk about? I want to talk about eminent domain, the never-ending battle for natural resources, and natural disasters. All right, so in the news right now, of course, we had Hurricane Helene that wiped out many long-standing homesteads going back generations in North Carolina, Eastern Tennessee, Georgia. And then we had Hurricane Milton, Paradise Lost, that blessedly, miracle, didn't destroy Tampa Bay, but obviously caused tons and tons of damage. There was this old theory in economics, pretty awful, pretty debunked, pretty communist and Marxist, called the broken windows theory. And the broken windows theory basically meant that if you have an economy that is struggling, a good way to stimulate economics would be to break windows and pay somebody to come and fix those windows, and then money is being circulated because old infrastructure needs to be replaced, and so you're stimulating the economy. Someone's getting paid to fill that. There's the old theory too, where you dig a hole, hire somebody to fill that hole, and then dig that hole. You can see that in most big cities, from the Big Dig in Boston to the expansion of the 520 floating bridge in Seattle, where billions and billions of union jobs were created to basically pave over what already existed. Whether it was needed or not, that's debatable, but the money obviously went to a lot of union jobs, union officials, back to elect people. So it's a thing. And I've realized that even in red states, they've got their own kind of unions, so it's not as always teachers' unions or Teamsters. It can be a long list of other ones who are getting paid to be in office. So that's all nice and that's all good. But let's think about this for a second. In the last 12 months, I think, Maui, Lahaina, beachfront property burned to the ground. In Wyoming, as I record this, half the state is owned by the federal government. The other half that is private is on fire. There are several, about 80,000 acres on fire, not contained. Lightning strikes, arson, the occasional electrical appliance that sets it off and it just spirals out of control because of drought and whatnot. That all happens. That's true. That is a man-made, God-made disaster. But there is always the aftermath, the reconstruction, the ability for private companies owned by certain big institutional companies to show up and reap the rewards, let's say, of what's under the ground that the pesky people are on top of. So you could have lithium mines that have been there since World War II, at least discovered and operated, but they want to expand because, the Department of Defense gave them $90 million I'm talking about North Carolina, to expand those mines, about a week before the hurricane comes. Coincidence? Of course. But someone's got to get paid to rebuild Lahaina. Beachfront property facing west, right there towards Asia. Someone's got to go in there and put the power lines back in Florida near Tampa Bay with 3 million people out of power, which needs to be put back on. It's just weird. You have the stories of the arsonist was actually the firefighter who was looking for some jobs because he had some debts to pay, and so of course being called up to go fight that fire, he's gonna be paid for that. Now, is that sinister? Is that gross? Is that terrible? Yeah. Have we seen that our government is willing to do that sometimes, like with vaccine mandates and well, we can go a long list of those things. Yeah. So let's just pretend that the lithium mines in North Carolina and the mining natural, 450 million, what is it? 450 million, $500 million was just granted to Wyoming companies, loaned by the federal government to explore for natural resources in Wyoming. Like I said, half the state is owned by the federal government. The other half is not. Guess what they discovered not too far away? So, could it be, for speculation purposes, for satire purposes, just speculating, I don't know, could we be moving people off of their lands for the resources underneath to be exploited for trillions of economic value? What do you think? We've seen a lot of this already. It's hard to deny when you look at the paper trail, follow the money, as I always say. Could it be that they have ill designs on the land at the expense of the people who live there, private property? It's called eminent domain. Government believes they own us already. They believe they own our kids. They believe they own everything. So we're just in the way. So, I don't know. Speculation. We'll keep looking at it. You can look up, you can Google all those deals I just talked about. The mines in North Carolina and the natural resource, rare earth metals underneath Wyoming. See for yourself. Acapulco too. See you soon. Hello, and welcome back to the Heartland Journal Walk and Talk. I got my new hat on. See that? Heartlandjournal.com hat, kind of cool. Black and red, our colors. Oh, and happy Columbus Day. It'll never be Indigenous Peoples Day to me. That could be tomorrow. Why don't we have Indigenous Peoples Day tomorrow and Columbus Day today and forever? All right. That said, I'm pretty convinced we're living in the age of miracles. They don't say miracles happen anymore. Where is God and where is the miracles? Everywhere. I mean, think about this for a second. Of course, I started doing these walk and talks the day after Donald Trump dodged a bullet in Butler, Pennsylvania by a millimeter. That's a miracle. We'll see what God has intended for him in the future. Obviously, the future is unwritten by us. But it is, by the way, the Day of Atonement for the Jewish people, the original Christians. So, it really is there. I mean, the secular world doesn't want you to see it. They want you to close your eyes. They want you to watch Netflix and Disney and not the world around you. But look at the blue sky behind me. I live in a state that won't allow airplanes to dump shit on us anymore. So that's a miracle. Otherwise, it would just keep going, right? Just keep happening. Messing with the weather, messing with the people, doing things that are supposed to be godly is not that, right? Bill Gates is not a humanitarian. He's a secularist. He's a anti-human secularist. So what other miracles? Well, we talked about praying really hard to slow the wind down of the hurricane. The whole world did that, and it happened. That was a miracle. That doesn't just happen for no reason. I'm telling you right now, whether it was man-made or natural, to have that 220-mile-an-hour hurricane slow down at the coast of western Florida and no lives were lost, that's a miracle, baby. So, of course, there's every day the sun comes up. That's a miracle. But there's been more. How about Israel shooting down 500 missiles launched from Iran? A superpower. I say that facetiously. Well, none of them got through. Thankfully, none of them were nuclear tipped. But we do have this situation where Trump has said okay, Biden said no. But Israel decides to take out the oil fields and the nuclear facilities in Iran, will the world be a safer place or a more dangerous place? Safer, right? So peace, that could be on the table. We'll see. We'll see if man gets out of the way. And what is Israel even there? That's a miracle. They shouldn't be there. They should have been hit by 499 of those missiles, but no, there's a Patriot Dome there that America provided over the last several decades. And so God's timing is perfect, right? That actually happened. That is world changing, world conserving. Love that word, conservatism, more and more every day. So we got an election coming up. Early voting starts on Wednesday in Tennessee. I'm voting early. I'm not taking any chances on a snowstorm, an ice storm, a weather-related incident, a power failure that would delete all the records, whatever it is. So let's pray for that. Let's pray for a change in the cultural environment of politics to something less communist, less Marxist, less overly regulated, more taxed, to something more capitalistic, pro-American, pro-life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, pro-Christian and Judeo ethics and values in our system, so that our courts and our criminal defense industry can be more just. Let's just pray for good things and stop the bad things. All right? I got a whole long list of more miracles that have happened in the last 12 to 24 months to 48 months. But for today, let's just count our blessings and say thank you, God, for the opportunity to speak freely, to raise our families, to eat food, and to go on with our days and our lives, all the days of our lives, in a way that you can't really do in any other country, can you? You can't do this in Cuba. You can't do this in North Korea. You can't do this in Russia. Maybe you can. I don't know. They seem to be acting freer than we are these days. But we have an opportunity to turn back the clock and do something that America is known for, and that's have a revolution at the ballot box instead of at the trenches in the warfare like we had in the Civil War. This time we can just do it peacefully, patriotically, legally, ethically, morally. So that's my prayer. Trump wins, and down ballot a lot of Republicans come back into office and actually have the values that we need to fix this country. Amen. See you later. Howdy, folks. Hope you had a happy Columbus Day yesterday to all my Italian and adventurous friends out there. Yes, it's a great day to celebrate adventure and the discovery of new lands and new worlds. Today could be Indigenous Peoples Day, the next day. I think that's what we should do. Columbus Day on the Monday, Indigenous people on the Tuesday. But anyway, that's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is this dumpster fire of a political season campaign. Can you believe, what a weekend. You can't make this stuff up, folks. You go from Saturday Night Live, making a clown show out of Harris. You have Tampon Tim, they call him, the VP candidate, go out on a hunting expedition like Elmer Fudd in his chaps, trying to load shotgun shells into a Beretta and can't, proving he's not exactly the manly man that they want him to be. You've got Time Magazine, of all places. I'm going to do a show on it today. And The Hill Magazine, not in my little black book of right-wing, fire-breathing, fire-branded, conservative conspiracy theorist. Well, they are that, but not what you would normally peg as yellow journalism. They are yellow journalism, sorry. And they're all over the 4 reasons why Kamala Harris is losing. So, back in the day, 70s, Saturday Night Live was new and irreverent and funny, and Chevy Chase did a number on Gerald Ford. Not going to say it was single-handedly helped him lose against Carter, but he people think of Carter and Ford, they think of Chevy Chase. And his bumbling, his falling down, even though he was technically the most athletic president we'd ever had. He played football for Michigan. I'm not a fan of Michigan, but he played. But so Sarah Palin, right? Tina Fey and her "I can see Russia from my backyard" and all that stuff. That hurt. She was a vice presidential candidate. And I'm just saying that here we are. Early voting starts today in Georgia. Tomorrow is Tennessee. I'm voting tomorrow. I don't want to wait. I don't want to risk a snowstorm or an ice storm or a earthquake or a power outage or anything so that my vote doesn't count. I'm actually looking forward to this because all the energy's on that side. But my point is, you've lost the media, folks. They've lost the script. Nobody likes these people. They're just a bunch of frauds. They have their foolishness, and they're not working with middle class people. They're not working with blue collar people. They're not working with gays, blacks, Jews, Americans, nobody. The only people that they seem to be rallying are the far left Marxists that are in the street causing all kinds of damage, scaring people with their fists raised and their burning of buildings and their overturning of cop cars. That's not a constituency to win in America. You may affect some policy in Paris, France, with that, socialist government, or up there in Canada, but not here, baby. Not when you got 50 states to win. So my point is, they've lost the left. They've lost the middle, never had it. They've lost the right, of course, never had it. Even if Karl Rove, which was, back in the day, that was Bush's brain. He was the Svengali of everything wonderful in the Republican Party. Dick Cheney, who they called a war criminal and Darth Vader forever, all of a sudden is on that side. His daughter, the worst congressman ever, who lost by 20 points in Wyoming, the most conservative state, in my opinion, one of the top conservative states. So look, Trump Vance, don't see many Walls' Harris's. So I have a feeling this whole thing was AstroTurf from the beginning, just a fake campaign, just a big, huge waste of money, a huge money laundering scheme. But here's where it gets important. We need down ballot votes. We need Republicans in office. I'm not saying that they're the cure for everything that's wrong, and I'm not saying that they're not responsible for how we got here with $33 trillion of debt, but I am saying they're the only stopgap between what the far left has in store for us and what America and the Republic is, for which it stands. There's another Walls one. See? Trump Walls. So, yeah, I live in that kind of neighborhood, but it matters. It matters. Symbols matter. And I don't see any of the other side's signs. So, long story short, see you on the show today. We got a good one. We got a county council member from Knox County. Tomorrow, we've got Hernando Aker, A-C-R-A-R-C-E, kind of acre, but jumbled up. Citizen journalist who's been covering door-to-door the illegal immigration crisis in New York City and Springfield, Ohio, and all the rest. That's going to be a good one. So, peace out. Don't forget to vote. If I don't talk to you tomorrow, do it early. Doesn't have to be Wednesday, but I would do it soon. The weather's turning different. Yesterday there was blue skies, today not. And that's not from airplanes, that's from Mother Nature, aka God's bitch. All right, love you, bye. Hey everybody, here I am. It's early voting day in Tennessee, first day of voting, and man, the parking lot is completely packed, so everybody's got the same idea. That's fantastic. So the question, of course, is why are we doing this early? Well, I've talked about it many times. We got potential weather issues. We got who knows what, since voting is in November. But what about the 6,800 combat deaths in the Revolutionary War, the 15,000 in the War of 1812, when the British tried to take it back after they lost it, World War I, 320,000, World War II, 407,316. Vietnam, of course, 58,220, with a lot of the politicians currently serving were either anti-war or fought in that war. And, of course, 1983 Beirut, 241 Marines, where the Muslims decided to try to kick us Western civilization people out, and we've been dealing with that ever since. So that is a good reason to vote. I got my Bucky for President shirt on, and in the back it says, "I can't hear you because I'm letting freedom reign," or something of that effect. So that's fun. And I did that because last time in the primaries they turned people away who were wearing Reagan Bush shirts, or one that had a Tom Petty lyric on about loves Jesus and America too, and apparently that was partisan, so you can't wear that to a polling place. So here I am, ready to vote, and you should vote too. Vote early. Don't vote often, just vote early. And let's tell everybody in America that we do have high turnout, because man, the last several decades, turnout has been extremely low. I'm trying not to get hit by a car. Look at this, there's a line of all things. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Democracy in action. See y'all tonight on the show.
Smoke in your eyes, mortars in the sand. You could say it was no day at the beach, man. Bullets flew and the bodies fell. It was like something straight out of hell. Flags of our fathers and mothers too. Hard times ain't nothing new. Let it fly, let it wave, raise it up for the red, white, the blue and brave. Oh, it stands for all to see, a reminder that freedom isn't really free. Sometimes those stars come down halfway, but for those who earn their stripes the hard way, let it fly. Old glory draped on a cottonwood box, fighting back tears through 21 gunshots, taps through the brass, and the corner's tough. That's the price that gets paid to hold Old Glory up. Let it fly, let it wave, raise it up for the red, white, the blue and brave. Oh, it stands for all to see, a reminder that freedom isn't really free. Sometimes those stars come down halfway, but for those who earn their stripes the hard way, let it fly. For the ones we lost and everyone that's paid the cost, let it fly. The hard way, let it fly. Let it fly.
Yeah, I've been dreaming of the wild, wild plains, walking where the pine trees dance.
Heartland Journal Podcast is the media property of heartlandjournal.com, where you can find news stories, commentary, and content serving the heartland of America. Any views or opinions represented on the podcast are personal and belong solely to the creator and do not represent those of the people, institutions, or organizations that the creator may or may not be associated with in professional or personal capacity unless explicitly stated.